Are you going to be asking people to sign these pledges, and are you going to be keeping up with who signed it? And
listen, the people of the state of Texas are wise enough to watch this and to know what's important. And just like Senator Patrick said that he supported this concept and he would be willing to sign a pledge. I'm not going to have a pledge for anybody to sign, but the public knows what these 5 simple principles are about. And I'm sure over the course of the next 5 weeks, as we go into a primary session or season, that people are either going to be for them or they're not. There's not a lot of gray area here. So to specifically answer your question, no, there's not a pledge that we're going to have to sign. But we hope people will read these and find that there's something that they can put their full faith and support behind. If there are groups that want to take these and have a pledge, that's their call, but it won't be coming out of my office or from me.
Some of these things you could have done yourself. You could have refused to sign a budget that has an IOU in it. As you know, this budget does. I mean, why do you need a pledge, and why couldn't you have just done this yourself?
Well, if you'll go back and look through the years, Ted, that's one of the things that I'd call for multiple times. And now, if you all want to let me unilaterally run state government, I'll be more than happy to do it. I think it'll be a pretty effective place. But my bet is even members of the Senate and the House want to be engaged in that. So this is about resetting the button on budgeting. And that's what I think Texans understand. Can we do it better? Absolutely. Have we done a good job in the past? Better than any other state. But as Michael said, try to shoot for as good as you can be, not just being a little better than everybody else. And that's what this is really all about. It's pointing out places where we think that Texans deserve to have more transparency, more honesty, and frankly, more pressure downward on the spending, because we see a federal government that's out of control. And we see other states that have some real problems with their budgetary problems. And we want Texas to be a place where people know that there's transparency in our budgeting, that there's truth in our budgeting, that there are clear restrictions for future legislatures because of constitutional restrictions on spending, so that their children and their grandchildren can keep more of what they work for.
Governor, we're starting to hear another round of wailing and gnashing of teeth from school districts who are facing another, what they call, very challenging budget cycle. Do you think they'll support this type of measure or oppose it? Because it does put caps on what they can go to the legislature for.
Well, I think as we go forward, you look at what's happening across this country and the spending, the prolific spending that has happened in Washington, D.C. We have a federal health care law that is being debated in front of the Supreme Court that could be devastating to our budgets. So there are real pressures upon the states to manage their fiduciary responsibilities. And public schools are a part of that. They get part of their money from the local folks. They get part of their money from the state. And this is nothing new. I mean, I've been involved in this process since 1985, and there was wailing and gnashing of teeth, and the same in 1985 as we hear now. We managed to make our ends meet. The school boards and the administrators manage budgets. They prioritize what's important and fund that. And the Texas legislature does the same thing. So I don't see this as being an extraordinary process, nor an extraordinary period of time in Texas history. Every session there are people who want to spend more money. There are people who want to prioritize their projects and where they find themselves as the most important in the state. And that's the reason the members of the legislature meet, thank goodness, only every other year for 140 days to get the work done, prioritize what's important, balance the budget. Thankfully, our founding fathers had a constitutional amendment that did that. And we make it work. So I'm sure at the end of the day there will be those that say we would have done this differently. But our process works, and I think our process works as well as any other state in the nation.
Governor, can you give me some examples of some of the unnecessary and duplicative spending that you would like to eliminate?
No, I think this is a good time to start the conversation. So I could probably give you a long list if it was just me, but I understand I work with the members of the legislature and I work with the Senate and the House. So this is the start of a conversation, and we're not going to write the budget today. But my instinct is that there may be folks out in the private sector who could give us some ideas about, hey, why don't you look here for some savings? And they can go to that hash mark TX Budget Compact and give some ideas to these members of the legislature and certainly to the governor's office as well.